Chapter 7, Trying to Get It Right. By this point, I was not guessing anymore. I had learned the language. I knew what words mattered. I knew how to say things in a way the system was more likely to hear. But while I was trying to get it right, my real life was already not okay. This was not me sitting down healthy enough to calmly manage an insurance problem. This was me trying to do all of that inside a body that had already been struggling for a long time. I was already dealing with digestive problems, chronic pain, PTSD, and the kind of health instability where one more problem does not stay small. It spreads. It takes more. It narrows your life. There had already been times when eating felt like a negotiation with my own body. What can I handle? What will hurt? What will come back up? What is safe enough today? There had already been a point where I could barely eat at all. I could only keep down baby food. Anything more could mean cramps, vomiting, and paying for it afterward. I had already lost weight. That was not exaggeration. That was my baseline. So by the time I was trying to do this correctly, I was not starting from strength. I was starting from a body that already did not trust food. And then my mouth got worse too. So now it was not just that digestion was hard. Chewing was hard too, painful too, limited too. It was one more layer of difficulty, added to a body that was already struggling to stay fed, stable, and functional. That is what I need people to understand. This was never one clean issue. It was never one bad tooth, one denial, one request. It was a body that was already worn down being asked to survive one more thing. And the people responsible for my health could already see that. My doctors were not confused about whether this was serious. They knew I was struggling to maintain nutrition. They knew oral function mattered. They knew this was affecting medication use. They knew it was making the rest of my health worse. They knew removable solutions were not medically appropriate for me. That matters. Because I was not out there trying to turn a preference into a crisis. My life was already proving it. My body was already proving it. My doctors were already proving it. And still, I was the one having to carry that truth toward the system and make it legible enough to survive. That is what trying to get it right actually looked like. It looked like working with my doctor, working with the dental office, helping shape language, helping gather records, helping make sure the medical side of this did not get buried under the easy word, dental. And I want to be clear about something. I do not want to blame the people who were trying to help me. They were trying. But the truth is, I was carrying more of this than a patient should have had to carry. I was sick, and I was still helping build the argument. I was hurting, and I was still trying to make sure the wording was strong enough. I was already dealing with pain, food, medications, weight, fear, and the emotional cost of a body that kept demanding more from me than it gave back. And on top of that, I was trying to make sure the case did not get reduced into the wrong story. Because I could already feel how easily that could happen. The easy version was dental. The true version was this. I cannot chew safely. My nutrition is compromised. My medications are affected. My body is already unstable. Delay is making me worse. Removable prosthetics are not medically appropriate for me. That is a much harder truth for a system to hold. And I was the one trying to hold it there. I was not chasing perfection. I was trying to keep myself from getting worse. And I believed that if I did everything right, that would matter. If I used the right words, if I got the right letters, if I stayed respectful enough, if I stayed clear enough, if I did everything correctly, then maybe the system would finally meet the reality I was living. That belief is hard to sit with now, because it was sincere. I believed effort would matter. I believed truth would matter. I believed doctor support would matter. I believed that if I did everything right, that would protect me. And that belief was not naive. It was human. It was what you are supposed to believe. That if something is real, if it is documented, if it is affecting your ability to eat, to function, to take care of your health, then someone will meet you there. But while I was holding on to that belief, my life was still happening in real time. Food was still hard. Pain was still there. My body was still unpredictable. My energy was still limited. Nothing paused just because I was trying to build a case. There was no break, no moment where I got to step outside of it and focus. I was living it and explaining it at the same time, trying to stay calm enough to communicate clearly, while also trying to get enough food into my body to stay upright. Trying to sound organized, while everything in my actual life felt fragile. Trying to make sure I was understood, while also trying not to sound like too much. And that is something I do not think people talk about enough. The way you start editing yourself. The way you try to make your suffering sound reasonable. The way you leave things out because you are afraid that if you say everything, it will sound like too much to be believed. So you tighten it, you simplify it, you make it easier to hear. And in doing that, sometimes you make it smaller than it really is. I was doing that too. Even while I was trying to get it right, I was still protecting other people from the full weight of what I was living. I was trying to be a good patient. Easy to work with, clear, cooperative, not emotional, not overwhelming. Because somewhere in the back of my mind, I thought that would help my case. That being easier to deal with might make it easier for them to say yes. And that is a quiet kind of pressure. Because you are not just trying to survive your health. You are also trying to present your health in a way that will be accepted. And all of that was happening while I could already feel something was not right. Not clearly wrong yet, but not steady either. Things that should have felt simple felt complicated. Things that should have been clear felt slightly distorted. Things that should have moved cleanly felt like they were shifting in ways I could not fully see. And I kept trying to adjust. Maybe I need to explain it better. Maybe I need to send more. Maybe I need to clarify this part. Maybe I just need to be more patient. Because at that point, I was still assuming the system was basically working. That if something was off, it was probably something I could fix. That if I just stayed with it long enough and did it carefully enough, it would come together. I did not know yet that I was already inside something that was not holding my case the way it needed to be held. I did not know yet that the effort I was putting in was not being matched by the structure I was relying on. I did not know yet that doing everything right was not going to protect me. All I knew was I was trying. And it was costing me more than I expected. That is where this chapter lives. Not in failure, not yet. But in the space where you are doing everything you can, while your life is already hard enough, and something just underneath the surface is starting to give. I was already doing the work of surviving my body. I did not realize, yet, that I was also going to have to do the work of surviving the system.